The all-in war. How Zelensky gambled Ukraine's future on its last chips. A desperate gamble in the midst of war. In the quiet yet tense night of Kyiv, the city's lights shone brightly. President Volodymyr Zelensky sat in the conference room of the presidential office, surrounded by piles of documents. His gaze fixated on a report the United States had just approved, a long-range missile program. These weapons would allow Ukraine to strike deep into Russian territory, a breakthrough Zelensky had been waiting for. This was a war Zelensky could not afford to lose. As the country's leader, he knew he was not only fighting for Ukraine's land but also gambling on the future of his people. His strategy was clear: to bet everything on international support, particularly from the United States. Biden's support, from defense to offense. Ukraine's all-in strategy became possible largely due to U.S. President Joe Biden's backing. On November 17, 2024, Biden lifted restrictions on Ukraine's use of U.S.-made long-range weapons, providing Zelensky with the critical leverage he needed. This decision expanded Ukraine's strike range from 80 kilometers to 300 kilometers, posing a direct threat to Russia's heartland. At 3 a.m. on November 20th, Ukraine's military launched 6 U.S.-made Army tactical missile systems ATACMS at the Russian region of Bryansk. Although Russia claimed to have intercepted most of the missiles, this attack marked a turning point, symbolizing a new phase of the war. Zelensky's all-in strategy, reconstruction and deterrence. Zelensky's all-in strategy extended beyond military actions to Ukraine's post-war reconstruction. He promised the international community that Ukraine's economy would fully open to Western investments after the war. Ukraine's rich natural resources such as lithium, titanium, and graphite became key incentives for global investors. Meanwhile, Zelensky emphasized in parliament that Ukraine could find effective deterrent tools even without nuclear weapons. He announced reliable financial support for domestic weapons production, signaling his determination to further strengthen Ukraine's military capabilities. Russia's response: escalating nuclear threats. In response to Ukraine's offensive, Russia acted swiftly. President Vladimir Putin signed a new nuclear policy, authorizing the use of nuclear weapons if Russia were attacked with missiles backed by nuclear-armed states. The policy took immediate effect, heightening fears of escalation in the international community. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov reiterated that Russia viewed nuclear weapons as a last resort deterrent, to be used only under extreme circumstances. However, Zelensky's actions were pushing the conflict closer to such extremes. The U.S. dilemma? Support or provocation? While Biden's policy boosted Ukraine's military capabilities, it also placed the U.S. at the center of international controversy. Russia condemned U.S. support for Ukraine as an indirect attack on Russian sovereignty, pushing the war toward a more dangerous trajectory. Domestically, opposition voices against Biden's approach grew louder. For the Biden administration, supporting Ukraine became a double-edged sword. On one hand, it strengthened Ukraine's bargaining position. On the other, it risked provoking Russia into further aggression, making peace seem increasingly elusive. The uncertain Trump factor. Amid this tense period, Donald Trump was re-elected as U.S. president, adding an unpredictable variable to the equation. Trump had previously criticized the scale of U.S. aid to Ukraine, calling it excessive. His eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., criticized Biden's decision to lift restrictions on long-range weapons, arguing that it made achieving world peace under Trump's leadership even more challenging. Zelensky understood that Trump's policy direction would profoundly impact Ukraine's future. Whether his all-in strategy could secure Trump's support remained the biggest challenge for Ukraine's next phase. All-in gamble. Where does the future lie? Zelensky's strategy was undoubtedly a gamble on international support. He knew that without help from the United States and Europe, Ukraine could not withstand Russia's military pressure. However, this all-in approach also posed significant risks to Ukraine's sovereignty, particularly in terms of economic openness and resource exploitation. For Russia, this war had evolved beyond a geopolitical conflict into a struggle for its national security and international standing. For the U.S. and the international community, the challenge lay in balancing support for Ukraine while avoiding direct confrontation with Russia. Kyiv's night sky remained bright, but the shadow of war loomed heavy. Zelensky knew that every choice he made was writing Ukraine's history. His all-in strategy was both a desperate gamble and his last remaining leverage in the realms of international politics and war. Will this gamble bring peace and a future to Ukraine? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: Zelensky's name is already etched in the history of this war.